Hi guys, welcome back to our channel.
It's Jennifer
And Emily. So today we have something new for you guys. We're gonna be starting this new series where we tell scary stories while playing Arsenal.
Yeah, and this time it's me playing, but in the next video of the series, Emily will be playing. I will take turns reading the stories. My brother and I were both under 7 years old. He was maybe 4 and I 6. We were playing outside in the snow when a strange white car pulled into our long driveway. This was uncommon since our driveway was hidden. The window rolls down and a man with short hair and goatee pulls up a camera and takes our picture. Then he rolls up the window and drives away. Never had any closure or follow-up on that situation, but it freaked my mom out so bad.
Ever since I was a kid, a spirit followed me. Little things would happen like getting water bottles thrown at me while I was trying to sleep or having my bedroom door slammed shut whenever I was alone inside. I've pretty much gotten used to it, but ever since I became a teenager, it's gotten worse. Waking up to see a dark shadow with white piercing eyes staring back at me, severe sleep paralysis, scratches all over my body, spontaneous fires, and even one instance of waking up to flowers laid on my pillow. No idea where they came from or what the intention was. We ended up contacting a paranormal investigator to see if they could figure out what it was that was bothering me. But when I asked, it said Satan, and slammed the door. I've heard that there's a demon that can fall in love with you if you stand naked in front of a mirror, and I'm scared that might be the case. Every relationship I've gotten into has resulted in the person being harassed by my ghost or their family members or pets dying out of nowhere. I bought a Ouija board online, but my mom won't let me use it. I'm worried because last night my mom told me that she saw me walking into our basement with my hand outstretched and my eyes wide open. When she asked what I was doing, I said he's taking me with him. I don't remember any of this, but the thought of that makes my body shiver. I'm scared of what will happen next.
When I was around 2 to 5 years old, my family used to live in a small apartment. We moved in our new house when my mom got pregnant. When we lived in the apartment, I didn't have a lot of friends since there were no kids my age living in the neighborhood. There were no nursery in my small town, and obviously I was not old enough to go to school yet, so I used to play by myself and with my good friend Joe Bett. This name is relevant for later. The problem is, I was the only one who could see and speak with Joe, and Joe was a grown-up man. We used to play with my Hot Wheels and we talked together. My mom would sometimes hear me have a conversation alone in my bedroom and come by to check who I was talking to, but could not see anyone in the room. Every time she asked, I answered, with my friend Joe. Up to this point, it would have been a pretty normal situation for a lonely kid to get an imaginary friend, and I would have thought that myself too if it had stopped there. But the things got a bit stranger when my parents bought a house and planned to move out. I remember some of my Hot Wheels moving alone and some of my toys getting in the living room when we were not home. My mom also told me recently that she had started to feel weird in my room at that time, like if someone was watching her. My dad doesn't remember anything weird, except some of my toys getting out of my room when we were not home. But as he said, he wasn't often home with his work, so he may have missed some clues. We moved to our new home and everything stopped. At first, my mom assumed that my entering kindergarten and me making friends was the reason why I did not need Joe anymore. But the plot got even weirder. The other family who rented the apartment got in touch with my mom and started asking her questions about the apartment and more precisely about my bedroom. Their son has got the same bedroom that I had, and like me, he started playing and talking alone in his room. When his parents asked him who he was talking to, he always answered with Joe. My mom told them that I did the same and answered the same when she questioned me about it. The only difference was his last name. I would always tell to my mom that his name is Joe Bett, and the other kid named him Joe Blow. In both cases, his name was Joe and his surname started with a B. It is fairly strange coincidence, if it is one. I still can't figure out exactly what was happening by the time, and if it was in fact a ghost entity or just two lonely kids with a lot of imagination. At least Joe was a good guy and helped me get through my childhood.
So this happened to me back in 2017 when I was just about to turn 18. For a bit of context that will be important, I seem to have the same problem that a lot of men have, where I can't find something sometimes even when it's right in my face. This deeply annoyed my mom, and any time that I would ask her to help me find something and it would be in plain sight, she would just pick it up and throw it at me. Not hard, just playfully, and rolled her eyes really hard. Back to the day in question. My mom had just been pulled off of life support after being pronounced legally brain dead. The choice was up to me, and I knew that she wouldn't want to live life like that. So on the evening of the day I had told the doctors to pull the plug, my uncle, who had come from another state to help me get affairs in order, had made scalloped potatoes for dinner. After we had finished eating, I went back into the kitchen to put away the leftovers. I put the casserole dish they were made in on the stove and walked to the pantry to grab the cling wrap. I looked around for a minute or two and couldn't find it. In my emotionally raw state, I began to lose my temper and loudly exclaimed, "Where the F is it?" After a moment or two, I saw a swift blur of movement above my head as the cling wrap flew from the second to top shelf and hit me right in the face, but not very hard. It took me a moment to process what had just happened. I stood there in complete shock, and then I kind of broke down in the middle of the kitchen. I had tried to think of anything it could have been, trying to convince myself it couldn't have been her, but I have come up empty.
So I bought my home in 2017. It's 105 years old and was completely redone. I have 3 kids, 2 teenagers and 1 12-year-old. I have had 3 unexplained experiences. The first, I heard my youngest son came up the steps and head to his room. I looked toward his room to see him peeking at me through the crack as he closed the door. Then he closed the door. I jokingly said, "Hey." No response. I went and knocked on his door, and I hear my son downstairs asking, "Are you knocking on my door?" I threw open his bedroom door, honestly thinking someone broke in, and it was empty. The second, my eldest son's room is in the attic, and I yelled up his stairs and heard him say, "Yeah," and I asked him to come downstairs. 10 minutes later, no him. I yell again, and he yells up from downstairs. He hadn't been in his room. He was out back and had just come in. The third, I'm in my room and I see my daughter, who was in all black, go into her room, but what alerted me was the door didn't close. So she went into the room but through the door. I jumped up and threw her door open, and she was on her bed doing homework. I asked her if she had just come upstairs, and she said no, she had been in her room all morning. All of these instances happened in the middle of the day. No weird late-night ghost story vibes.
A few years ago, my mom and I decided to take a road trip. We were going to different camping/hiking spots along the California coast and were in the Big Sur area at the time of this particular incident. It was getting to be later in the day, so we had been sort of scrambling to find a campsite to sleep at. I can't remember the exact details, but for some reason we ended up going this long, windy mountain road that seemed to go up forever. Eventually at the top we found a secluded site with camp spots and even a bathroom. Didn't see anyone around, but the sun was about to go down, so we figured we could find the person in charge in the morning and pay them then. By now it was dark, and we had been around the fire for a few hours. Our site was right at the edge of the trees. I heard some rustling coming from that direction and looked up. 2 people walking, one in front of the other, dressed in all white. Perfectly clean clothes. The person in front had their arm back to hold the other's hand, but they both looked straight ahead. Didn't acknowledge me or my mom whatsoever. They walked out of the woods, past us, and right back into the trees. Here's what's weird. Both had no lights, were barefoot, had no belongings with them, and were not dressed warmly. It was probably around 40 degrees, pitch dark, and rough terrain. Not to mention the gut-wrenching heart-drop feeling I got when I saw them. I asked my mom if she saw that, and she said no, even though she was facing the same direction as me. I was on edge the rest of the night and had trouble sleeping. In the morning, my mom found the camp owner, paid him, and told him what I had seen. He replied nonchalantly, "Oh yeah, those are the night walkers. People see them around here sometimes." When she asked him if he thought this was paranormal, he said, "Pretty sure."
I worked at a public pool. I would work alone after hours cleaning the building and the pool. One night around 2 a.m., I'm cleaning the changing rooms. The pool has been closed for 4 hours at this time. I hear the sound of a child's laughter and bare feet running across the pool deck. I go out and scan the area. There's nobody in sight. The doors are all closed and locked. There is nowhere a kid could be hiding. No wet footprints on the pool deck. I recheck the doors and the security monitors. I am the only person in the building. It was unsettling.
Once while falling asleep after a movie with the family, I was awoken by what seemed like a small boy running towards the couch we were in. I immediately sat up and braced for impact. Now I would normally chalk it up to falling asleep, but Mom and Dad also bolted awake at the same time. Before I could explain, my dad told me he saw a boy running towards us. His description of the boy matched mine, while my mother confirmed as well.
I used to talk to ghosts when I was younger. My parents told me I talked to a little boy named Kevin that would appear at my window and come into the house to play. I would talk to him for hours and a bunch of creepy things would happen around the house. I'm both the youngest and an only child. My half-sister and brother are 10 and 8 years older than me, respectively. I am my mother's only child, so there was no one close to my age to play with. The weirdest part happened after I was an adult, though. My niece was standing in the hallway one day looking into my old bedroom. She turned to my brother and asked, "Who's the little boy in Tia's room?" Recently, my brother and his family moved into our childhood home. His youngest daughter, 3 years old, now has an imaginary friend named Kevin who comes in through her window, the same window he came through when I was a child. No one in my family ever told her about him.
I was always on the fence about ghosts because there was no specific evidence of them being real. But my family moved into an old farmhouse when I was 12. This was a very old farmhouse with the build date around the Civil War. The original owners' names were still on the old barn out back, and we found numerous old antiques built into the walls when we completely renovated the place. A few odd and end things happened after we first moved in, but distinct things started happening to myself after I turned 16, but never to my sister until after she turned 16 too. The most prominent memory I have. The upstairs consisted of 2 bedrooms. One bedroom was at the top of the stairs, and the second bedroom was in a separate room, just to the left of the top of the stairs. I had the private room, and my sister's room was the landing. When someone walked up the stairs, it was very distinct. You could hear each individual step, and the creaks got louder as the person approaching got closer. So one night, I was sitting on my bed watching TV or something, and I hear my sister come up the steps and go lay on her bed. So I start talking to her. When she doesn't answer me, I get annoyed and go into her room to figure out what her problem is. Only she is not in there. My mind was blown because I know I heard her. I called for her and she had been downstairs the entire time. We never felt threatened, but it did seem like this entity liked picking only on women. Even my mother, who absolutely doesn't believe in ghosts, had to admit some odd things that happened. I think the funniest thing was having my ponytail pulled while I was doing the dishes. I don't know why it was so funny. It just cracked me up that whatever it was felt like playing with my hair.
So that's all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed this new series.
Make sure to come back next Friday for a new video, and make sure to share this video with someone who might like it. Bye!